Hello and welcome to COVID Conversations here on WNCU 90.7 FM, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm your host, Kimberley Cartwright. I'm the News and Public Affairs Director here on WNCU. And we're using the Zoom platform to talk about how COVID-19 is affecting our world. Durham County's municipal election is coming up on November 2nd, and we're still in the middle of the COVID pandemic. And here to talk to me about voting in the upcoming election is Derek Bowens, Director of Elections at Durham County. Hello, sir, and thank you so much for your time today. I know that you are super busy with yes, hi.
Hi, thank you, Kimberly. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and never a burden to come speak with you.
So you're very welcome. My first question is, what are some of the important notes that you want to share about the voting process for early voting going on now and for the vote on November 2nd? And let's start with when to vote.
Yeah, so absentee by mail voting has been going on some time now, since after we canvassed the primary election on October 12th. We've been sending those ballots out and getting those requests. Early voting started on October 14th at 5 locations, and that'll go through October 30th. 17 days of voting at our 5 locations: East Regional Library, North Regional Library, South Regional Library, NCCU Turner Law Building, and the main library downtown. So you can come to any of those locations. The times are posted to our website. You can call us and get that information. And remember, you can also do same-day registration and vote during the early voting period if you miss that registration deadline. One thing to note is you do have to be a resident of the city in order to participate in the elections, or one of our other municipalities, Morrisville or Chapel Hill, that a piece bleeds into Durham County.
That's a lot of information, a lot of places to vote. So talk to me about where people can get additional information and they can get solid information specifically about their precinct.
Yeah, so our website, decovotes.com, you can go there. There's a precinct locator tool if you want to vote on election day, November 2nd. If you want to vote early, we also have an early voting locator with wait times at all of our locations. So, and directions on how to get to the facility from your location. So we do have some really good tools on our website that will give voters information about their polling place on election day if they opt to do that, or to go to one of the 5 early voting locations. Or you can always call us at 919-560-0700. The staff is more than willing to help get you the information you need to vote.
Yeah, and we're going to give that information at the end too. So you guys, if you didn't get the phone number or you didn't get information about the website, we'll repeat that for you. I want to talk, Mr. Bowens, about some of the challenges posed by COVID-19 when people come out to vote. There may be people who are saying, I do not want to be in a crowd of people, but my vote is very important.
Yeah, so we have, since 2020, when COVID kind of really hit the elections world in terms of how we prepare for voting in a COVID environment, we've really stood by very closely CDC recommendations as it pertains to in-person voting, and also the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services in conjunction with the State Board of Elections. We're happy to report that our COVID mitigation protocols that were in place for the 2020 general elections, there were no reported COVID clusters related to voting in the state of North Carolina that were attributable to voting. So we feel very confident in our COVID-19 mitigation plan, which includes, for in-person voting, sites are cleaned before and after voting. We have a cleanliness coordinator designated at each location where they wipe down every booth after every voter. There's hand sanitizer at entry and exit. Face masks are available to voters. Even our I voted stickers are almost contact free. So we definitely have a plan in place, and it's been working. Again, no reported cases of COVID related to voting. And we feel good about the investments we've made in that. We encourage people to come out and vote in person.
So I want to talk about deadlines. I know that early voting is going on now. There's actually going to be a vote where you come in person to vote. So let's talk about deadlines first, about absentee by mail ballots. When should they be returned?
Yeah, so absentee by mail ballots, if you got one of those must be returned on election day by 5 o'clock. That's 11/2 by 5 o'clock. We really encourage people to get those ballots back to us in the mail as quickly as possible. There's been some postal service delays regarding, getting mail back or returned to the local or sent to the location where its destination is supposed to be. So please make sure you get those in as quickly as possible if you can. Also, please, if you're getting a ballot in, regardless of when you put it in through the Postal Service, request a postmark. Make sure there's a postmark on or before Election Day in case these delays can affect the return of your ballot. So please be conscious and aware and vigilant in making sure your ballot gets to us on time.
So I want to talk now about prior to the pandemic, most voters cast their ballots in person. What are some of your predictions for voting in the November election as to the number of people who are coming out to vote? And then maybe you could kind of contrast that with the people who came out in the primary.
Yeah, so in the primary, we saw around 20,000 voters. It was a roughly, I believe, 10%. It was more than we had in the 2019 municipal primary election. And of course, that was pre-COVID, around the same percentage turnout. So for November, we're expecting anywhere from 30 to 36,000 is my projection. It seems that COVID is not stopping people from voting. We certainly saw that in 2020 with a 73% turnout. So we expect anywhere from 15 to 20% turnout in municipal elections. Historically, turnout is low during municipals. We expect that trend to continue based on what we've seen so far. But we definitely hope to get it up, but we don't expect a dip, certainly as a result of COVID. We think folks that want to vote will come out and vote.
So you guys have won some awards for your voting processes. Can we talk about those awards and that particular recognition?
Sure. Yes, two awards we're really proud of. One is the early voting wait time tool and site locator. We rolled that out more robustly last year, and it was huge in terms of getting voters to use one of our 14. I always can't remember whether it was 13 or 14. It's kind of a blur, 2020, to really spread people out amongst those sites. And so we did receive national recognition from the Federal Elections Assistance Commission, where we won a national award for innovation as a result of that implementation. We also won a national award from the National Association of Counties for what we call our BOE poll count app, which allows voters to go on our website on election day and actually see how many voters have been voting at the various precincts at 10, 2, 4, and 7:30. Which could also lead, to helping driving precinct organizers to getting people out to precincts if they see those numbers are low based on registered voters. So last year was a good year of recognition for the Board of Elections, and we hope to continue to be innovative and cutting edge for our voters here in Durham, and that those things are adopted not just by our state, but nationwide.
Well, congratulations on that win. It bodes well for Durham County and the process, and then it bodes well for you as director of the Board of Elections. So kudos to you guys for that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Team effort.
Team effort. Yes, say always. The team is a part of the win as well. What procedures do you have in place to protect from fraud in the voting process? And that has been a key issue in voting over the last few years.
Yeah, so I would say, there's many audits that happen during an election, post-election. From sample audit counts, we're mandated by law to have a team count a sample of the precincts by hand to make sure that reconciles with the machine totals. Happens after every single election. There's also recounts. Candidates can request recounts if they're within certain thresholds. There's also discretionary recounts. Last year in the 2020 general election, we recounted every ballot in Durham County for the Supreme Court race, which a recount was asked for. We also did a hand-to-eye recount of a sample of those precincts after we did the full recount, and we reconciled. So post-election audits, we make sure that the number of votes line up with the number of pieces of paper we have of humans that came and voted, and any discrepancies that we have there, we investigate. And as appropriate, those are reported to the State Board of Elections. Any suggestion that there's mass voter fraud is just not based in fact. It's based on theory and feelings, and I think in some respect, maybe upset because of a contest may have been lost. But I will, I can pretty affirmatively say for Durham County, we take auditing seriously. We take reconciliation seriously. We have a whole division in our department dedicated to audit. Any suggestion that there is mass fraud is not based in fact. It's based in conspiracy and speculation. And if there is cases of voter fraud, which are very, very marginal, those are reported and they're dealt with. So folks can have confidence that if we do see voter fraud, it's reported to the State Board of Elections, as we are required to do by statute, and the appropriate steps are taken to ensure that's investigated.
So can we talk about the ballot and the vote in Durham County, and give specifically like not so much who, but then what positions are up for the vote in the city of Durham?
Sure. For this cycle, on the city of Durham's ballot, we have the mayor and our 3 ward seats: Ward 1, Ward 2, and Ward 3. Our candidates for mayor, Elaine O'Neill and Javiera Caballero. Ward 1, we have I believe Ward 1, we have Deidreana Freeman and Marion Johnson or Jones. Marion T. Johnson. Ward 2, we have Mark Anthony Middleton and Sylvester Williams. And then Ward 3, we have AJ Williams and Leonardo Williams, I believe. We have those 4 races on the ballot. Every Durham city resident will be able to vote on every contest under the city's charter. So we look forward to folks coming out.
So people, so that they'll be prepared when they go to the polls to vote, then what do they need to do? What would you suggest for a voter who's in need of that kind of information, so they'll have knowledge about what's actually going on?
Yeah, I would say certainly visit our website at decovotes.com, where you can access your sample ballot. That'll give you the names of the individuals on the ballot, and then you can certainly go and do your research about those candidates. We, as the Board of Elections, is a nonpartisan entity. We do not produce any materials about candidates because our role is to administer the elections, not to engage in, advocacy or candidate-related issues. But I would say, go get your sample ballot from our perspective, review that. Those are the certified candidates that will be on your ballot. And please feel free to go and conduct research and be prepared when you come, because the quicker you can get done with the process, the longer we're able to, the faster we're able to move lines and prevent bottlenecks in that respect.
Yep. Some people out there may be concerned about voter ID. So can we talk about where we are in that process?
Sure. So photo ID right now, of course, is under an injunction, so it is not in effect. We're waiting for litigation to complete as to the final disposition or decision on what happens with photo ID. As it stands right now, photo ID is not in effect in North Carolina, so we will not be having that until we hear otherwise from the courts. So we're at a standstill, no effect on voters right now, but that could change at any time. And if that does, we'll be sure to educate and make sure our community has information on photo ID if it becomes accepted law.
So again, no photo ID. You don't have to show your ID when you come to the polls to vote.
That is correct. There's one exception, but that's for some first-time voters do have to, but generally, no, the photo ID is not required.
All right. So we're running a little bit low on time. Any final thoughts about the vote that's coming up on November 2nd?
I would say just please come vote. Again, you can go to our website at decovotes.com. You can call us if you don't have access to the internet, 919-560-0700. We'll get you the information you need if you're eligible to vote. And we encourage you to get out and make this a big one, just like we did in 2020. Municipal elections matter, and some argue that they matter even more because they affect you more directly. So please get out and vote, because we'll be here and we'll be ready for you.
I've been speaking with Mr. Derek Bowen, Director of Elections for Durham County. Thank you so much, Mr. Bowens, for your time that you spent with me today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Kimberly.
Yes, sir. And thank you, audience, for watching via YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram, as well as listening to WNCU 90.7 FM. Be sure to follow and subscribe to our pages to see more of our archived shows. I'm Kimberly Pierce Cartwright, your host, and we'll see you next time.